And welcome back, questers, adventurers, heroes, and people like me who are playing Death Knights. It's really hard to feel like a hero when you're leveling a Death Knight and doing those quests. Good God, finish that up. That's crazy. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. This is Embrace the Spoilers, specifically for World of Warcraft Legion, and I'm sitting here spoiling the Ebb out of WoW's latest expansion with Miss Jocelyn Moffett. Welcome back, Jocelyn.
Thanks for having me, Garrett.
This is, what an episode this is going to be, Joss. This is going to be like the end, but kind of not. And we're also not going to be able to talk about everything because, goodness gracious, the rep walls, Jocelyn. The rep walls.
Yes. I feel like this episode is going to be very anticlimactic just because it's the most disjointed zone. The story and lore experience was so amazing in the other four zones, and it sucks in Suramar. It's so bad. And it has nothing to do with the actual content. The content is interesting and compelling and really cool. The problem is you have to wait days in between, and those days are spent like not doing anything of importance, or at least like it feels like that, because you're just doing the same world quests over and over and over and over, and you're just like, can you just tell me more now? Like, I gathered you 10 more withered. Can you tell me things?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like the story quests themselves, I've been really enjoying for the most part. The druid stuff, I'm not so in on. But the Night Fallen / Nightborn stuff, anything happening in the actual city of Suramar, I am all in on. Really enjoying it. Anything that has progressed the story forward so far, I've really enjoyed. But I've hit a rep wall, and I still have quite a ways to go. I had to do some research because this stuff isn't 100% clear in the actual zone. There's really no in-game way of telling you like when you're gonna unlock the next story quest, and apparently
Right.
I have to hit 8,000 honored.
Yes.
So
That's also when you're going to unlock the dungeons as well.
okay. So I'm sure there are listeners out there wondering, like, oh my God, you horrible, like, you casual scrub. How are you not 8,000 honored with the Night Fallen already? And honestly, I mean, I split my time horribly in the beginning. I hit max with one character, decided I didn't like it, and started all over again on a Death Knight. And the other thing is I think, going to be our theme of this talk about Suramar, which is being pulled in so many different directions. Which I don't think is necessary. It's not Suramar only where this is happening. I mean, if you hit 110 and you unlock world quests, there's just so much to do at 110. You're not really sure what it is you should do, and I just immediately aimed for just getting gear, which means I was just doing world quests all over. It wasn't necessarily focusing on just the Nightfall. And I feel the game doesn't do a good enough job of explaining just how important the Nightfall and rep is.
Yep.
So now
for me, basically, I went in and always cleared Suramar as my first thing, and then I went and did all of my gear stuff because I knew that there was these big rep gates coming, and even then, like, I told you off air, I actually stopped grinding my Nightfallen rep because I just got so damn bored, and those walls, like, so I've done Court of Stars, I've done Archway, which are the two dungeons that you unlock. I've gotten into Revered, and you just look at Revered, because my next gate isn't till, I think, 12,000 into Revered, and then the next one after that is Exalted, and you finish Honored, and you're literally getting like 50 to 75 rep at a time. So you've done this like itty bitty teeny tiny like gain all the way through Honored, and it's painful. And then you see that 21,000 Revered, and you're just like, no. For one quest line, for 5 quests, you can suck it, Blizzard. I don't care.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm a lore nerd, and I don't care.
Well, it's because you're not getting new lore. You're having to grind to get to the next leg, which will give you new lore.
Well, but that's the thing. I don't even care what that chunk of lore is. It's like literally the end of the zone. It's going to tell me the whole point of everything that I've done, and I don't care.
Okay, wow, all right. Well, you can see that I haven't been grinding because I haven't reached this point, but I do feel we have ended the honeymoon phase, Jocelyn. We have seen enough of Legion now that we can start to we can start to see where it was not as successful. You know, where it is lacking, where we think it could have done better. And I think the overall reliance on rep is a huge thing. I think it's not as bad as it could be. It's definitely, I think, one of the more interesting ways to grind rep that we've had in any expansion. But
I just wish that they had put, even if going into the dungeons that you unlock through rep, if then killing bosses in there gave you rep towards the faction, that would be okay, because then there would be something that I would feel like I could do in addition. But the fact that, like, they're mythic, so they're gated, you can only do them once a week, and then, like, they took rep out of dungeons completely, it's just, like, it feels like there's literally nothing to do except for these same world quests over and over, giving these, like, teeny tiny little bits of rep. So I don't know. I think now that like you said, the honeymoon is over, and gating is my biggest problem with this expansion by far. Is I feel like everything I go to try to do, it's like, oh well, yeah, that would be really cool, but you have to wait 2 weeks, and I'm like, ugh, really?
yeah. So there's I don't know. There's a big discussion to be had there. Maybe we can save the discussion about how they could improve that for the end, and maybe we should just jump in and start discussing the story so far. What we've experienced. This, warning you up front, everyone, this will be an incomplete Suramar discussion, as neither of us have been able to complete all the world quests. I still have, after I've now spoiled it for myself and seen how many quests are left, many. I still have many actual quests that I guess progress the story forward to go. I'm still in the. It's looked like from according to Wowpedia, it's kind of broken into 3 big chapters with a bunch of like mini stories within. You've got Nightfall and But Not Forgotten, which is the opening chunk, which spans Nightfall all the way through the Light Below. Then you have the Good Samaritan, which I love the play on words there, which spans from An Ancient Gift all the way to A Change of Seasons. I'm actually, I just finished up the Blood and Wine section, and I now am waiting to get to 8,000 honored to start Statecraft, which is, there's still the Statecraft, and then there's 2 more quest lines after that before I get to the 3rd big chapter, which is titled Insurrection, which I have a feeling I know where this is going now.
So I guess the Good Samaritan is the actual achievement that you need in order to get the first step of what will be flying in the Broken Isles. So it gives you plus 30% mount speed, I think, in the Broken Isles.
Oh, very
And
good.
you have to get Lore Master, get all of your treasures. Like, there's a certain number of treasures you have to find in each zone. You have to finish your order hall, and there's 2 other things I can't remember off the top of my head, and then you get the mount speed. So the Good Samaritan section, you have to get exalted with the faction to unlock all the quests.
Suramaritan, Joss. Suramaritan.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
It's a made-up word, Garrett.
Yes. And again, while it is still grindy and I'm not ecstatic about it, I still feel more of a drive, and I feel it's varied enough that I don't. When it was revealed what I had to do to get flying in Draenor, I literally gave my monitor the middle finger and I stopped playing. I didn't like Draenor. I felt extremely repetitive, and there just wasn't enough stuff. And
to be honest, I have not missed flying in the Broken Isles at all, because you have the Flight Master's whistle when you unlock world quests.
Yeah, it does.
And it has
help
a 5-minute cooldown. Like, you can literally get around very, very easily.
Yeah. That being said, I'm at the point now where I wouldn't mind flying. It's like I've seen it enough. I don't need to crest that cliff again. It's fine. Yeah. I can just fly now. I've seen it enough. I've had the experience. I feel
like specifically for people who do mining and herbalism, I think it would be very beneficial, because I know I've been trying to do herbalism and trying to gather on a route in Val-Shara, and I'm just, oh my god, it's so painful.
I mean, I think it's part of the reason, right? I mean, it helps the economy that it is a bit of a job to collect materials. But no, I'm all ready for it. So anyway, let's talk about the introduction into Suramar. The whole reason we even are sent there. Khadgar sends us there because he gets a message from a Nightfallen named Thalrisra. That's just how the hell do you pronounce that easily?
Thalrissa, I think. Thalisra, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna call her Thal.
Yeah.
So we get a message from Thal. She's in trouble. Gygar believes she can aid us in our fight against the Legion, so he sends our butt to Suramar, and we track her down using Khadgar's wand. So we see this kind of echo of Thal, and she's fighting Withered. We eventually come upon her, and we have a quest I enjoyed where she's channeling this barrier, and we're fighting off Withered as they're bouncing off of this barrier. I rather enjoyed this beginning of Suramar. And we head into some ruins called Shalaran, and we kind of awaken this temple, and it becomes kind of our staging ground for everything that we do in Suramar. But before all of that, we get a cool-ass in-game cutscene where Thal explains the history of Suramar, the Nightborn, the Nightfallen, the Withered, everything. Like, just like, hey, here's the kitchen sink. Of the history of the elves in Suramar. It's a really pretty cutscene.
It's so well done. I loved it. And this is basically your introduction to the zone, because you're kind of zapped down there, and then you start exploring, and you get her, and then all of a sudden it's just like cutscene within the first, like, I would say, depending on how long it took you to do the fights, within the first 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really, really cool to just be like, okay, this is where you are now. This is this whole new world that you haven't actually seen before. And there's not a whole lot in Warcraft that feels new and different, and this felt new and different.
Yeah, absolutely did. So she explains that Suramar and the basically the Highborn there. I mean, we even get to see Queen Ajara for a second. She explains that, the Queen, in this case Queen Ajara, brokered a deal with the Legion, destroyed the world basically, which was the shattering that shattered Kalamador, or what is it called? The Great Sundering? I forget. There's too many things. There's shatterings, there's sundering, and there's been multiples of some of them. But what breaks apart Kalamador, what destroys the Well of Eternity, creates the Maelstrom, and breaks all the mega continent into the disparate continents that we now know is Azeroth. That was Queen Ajara's doing. So after that, Suramar is still around for the most part. And she explains that the night now what will become the Nightborn. Sorry, I guess they were the Highborn at the time. I need to get my terminology right. The Highborn cast a protective spell around all of Suramar, very similar to what Dalaran was enclosed in throughout all of vanilla World of Warcraft, all of Burning Crusade, until Lich King, and it was taken to the sky and brought to Northrend. That's what happened with Suramar, and they just stayed protected. And because they were, originally they were basically pulling their power from the Well of Eternity, they needed a source of magic. And since they were cut off from the rest of the world, they couldn't pull from the moon like the Night Elves. They couldn't pull from the Well of Eternity because it didn't exist anymore. It's now a giant swirling maelstrom in the center of the Earth, or Azeroth planet. Let's just say planet. And they created the Night Well. And it's very similar to the Sunwell if you're familiar with the Blood Elf lore. It's this conduit of energy in the center of Suramar. This is and that is what caused the Highborn to become the Nightborn, because they are now dependent on the energy from the Night Well.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, apparently during all of this, this is when Nightborn started getting exiled. They started getting kicked out of the city. And as far as we know, it doesn't seem like the Nightborn had any idea what would happen to them after they were exiled. And they did not learn of the Nightfallen or the Withered until basically now in the timeline when the shield was lowered and they had access to the outside world again. And that shield was...
so they have been completely isolated for 10,000 years, basically.
Yeah.
And so they kind of... I guess attracted the attention of the Legion again.
The power of the Night Well is what kind of brought the Legion to them. And that's why they lowered the shield. The elders of the Nightborn brokered a deal with the Legion, basically to save their own skin, and said, all right, yeah, come on in, we'll lower our shields here, you can have access to the night well. And so it's kind of history repeating itself more or less, because you had Queen Ajara before when they were the Highborn brokering a deal with the Legion and bringing upon massive destruction, and now you have the current elders doing the same thing all over again.
Although it's a little bit different in this case, I think, because the Legion kind of showed up and said, either you give us access or we'll kill you and take our access, versus with Queen Ajara, she just wanted more power.
That is
basically
true. Fair enough. Although it certainly seems like
it's very similar, for sure.
The higher-ups, the elders of the Nightborn, they're kind of terrible people anyway. Well, and I think the thing is, like, they know that they do need access to the light, or to the Nightwell. So they've been cut off from the world for 10,000 years. They don't actually know what's out there, if they have any allies, if they could find any allies. Like, I mean, if you're just this one city versus the strength of the Burning Legion, I'm pretty sure that no matter who you are in power, you make this deal. Oh yeah, absolutely. But the thing is that obviously this caused a schism within the community, and there was a revolt, basically. Yes. And Thalisra was part of that revolt. And all we really know from her, she didn't go into detail, is that they failed. And she was exiled or maybe escaped. I would assume that if you led a revolt, you probably would be killed, so she probably made it out with her life. I'm not sure she got off as easily as being exiled.
Well, when we were following her path, we see some confrontations with some guards, and we see some confrontations with another Arcanist specifically, and they were trying to kill her. So
right.
It was an escape more than an exile.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's how Thal got into the situation that she is in. And we basically align ourselves with her, and the majority of the Nightfallen quests that take us in the Suramar are all about kind of fostering this revolution from within. Because there's still a large group of Nightborn that are living within Suramar that have not yet been exiled or executed, that do not like the deal that was made with the Burning Legion and want to take their city back.
Yes, exactly. They are sympathizers.
Yes, there you go. So we get to be very sneaky and sneak around what I think is the most impressive zone I think ever created in World of Warcraft, which is the main city of Suramar itself. Not even like the overarching zone, just like the city. My mind is blown. It's quite annoying to get around in certain places, and drives me a bit batty.
You get used to it, though. You do start to recognize areas and things that you do, and yeah, you start to get used to it. But I mean, like, anyone who has ever complained about any design of any city ever, like, suck it. This is worse. Like, people have complained Undercity is hard to understand and get around. People have complained that, what's the other big one? Oh, shoot, I can't remember. Anyways, doesn't matter. There have been complaints about capital cities in Warcraft for years. This one is way worse. It's just like, the thing is, it's so punishing if you get it wrong, because you either have to go, like, all the way back, or you accidentally jump off the wrong place and you think that there's, like, a platform underneath you, and then there isn't, and, like, every distance you could possibly fall in Suramar City will kill you. So
I've taken a lot of res sickness in Suramar. Not necessarily even within the city. Like, there's just sections out in nature where I'm just like, well, I'm never going to retrieve my body from that. So I guess I'm just going to take res sickness and mine for 10 minutes before I can actually hit anything again.
Yeah.
I haven't had to take res sickness in years, Jocelyn. Years.
I've gotten, like, stuck because I am lucky as a hunter. As a survival hunter, I actually carry Talon something. I should know the name of my weapon, but anyways,
Talon something, yeah.
Talon claw.
There you go.
The spear, anyways, and it's one of its powers is that when I die, I turn into a bird, so I can actually fly to my body, which is awesome, unless you res in a place that then you can't get out of, which has happened to me once already.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like, well, I don't know. I'm sure every class has some type of perk that, is special to them. For me, I've been enjoying Suramar because it is very Venetian inspired. There's rivers with gondolas that run through all the cities, so I just have Path of Frost on all the time. I'm just running straight down the middle of the river and avoiding all of the guards that want to reveal me.
Which you can also do if you're exalted with the anglers. It's very, very helpful to have that water walking bug thing.
Ah, yes.
That mount.
Yeah, well, I'm not, because fishing is boring. So suck it, I'm a Death Knight.
I am, actually. I did it specifically to get that mount. And then I guess I didn't have enough gold at the time or something because I didn't actually buy it. So then I assumed I wasn't exalted. And I got so frustrated trying to get around Suramar that I was like, okay, I'm just going to go back and see how much I have to do to get exalted. And I got to Nat Pagle in Pandaria and he was like, oh, hey, would you like to buy a mount? And I was like, damn it, Nat Pagle. Why didn't you send me a note?
Why didn't you draw me a card at the start of my turn?
I thought we were friends.
Well, I want to compliment because I think there's a lot of anger in both of us for Suramar. I want to take a second to compliment it because at the start of this, when we started doing this, I said that I was just so relieved to come to Legion because I was so burnt out on orc aesthetic in Draenor, and that all I wanted was a culture that understood art and had time to make things bigger and greater than just stretching some leather on some turd posts and nailing it in. And could we have gotten a harder 180, a harsher contrast to Draenor than what we got with the Nightborn and their major city? It's incredible. I think it so really beautiful. Is an incredible accomplishment what they've done. And now I respect the increase in draw distance in the game system and the update that we got with the Legion patch more than anything else, because I went up to the top of the highest peak in High Mountain because it's near where I need to be doing my blacksmithing and mining quests, and you can see all of Suramar down in the distance, like this giant circle. You can see the whole layout of the city, and that's something I can actually go to, and I can actually walk around every little nook and cranny in there, and it just blows my mind, Jocelyn. It makes Dalaran look pathetic by comparison. It's kind of funny. I'm surprised Dalaran didn't get more of an update because of what was coming down the pipe with Suramar.
Well, yeah, but I feel like Dalaran is so iconic that they couldn't really add a whole other wing of the city.
I think they could have. I think they could have added a whole nother ring. Just get wider.
Yeah.
Bigger diameter.
But then, what would you have put in that ring to, I guess, kind of justify it? Because
it's not my job, Jocelyn. I just say make things more epic, and then Blizzard figures it out.
I see. Because basically, we're trying to escape the Legion when we blink from where Dalaran is it went from Northrend over to above Karazhan, and then blinked over to the Broken Isles. So I feel like, with all that blinking, if they're taking time to construct a whole outer ring, it's got to be for a real good reason.
Hey, man, they were hanging out over Karazhan for 3 weeks, okay? They could have, beautified it a bit. I go back to Disney every now and then, and they add new stuff onto that park. All right.
It would be really cool if they had city envy, and as they're floating above Suramar, they're looking down, and now they start construction because they're oh man, we got to get bigger. Theirs is bigger than ours, guys.
Oh, great.
That's the problem.
And that's the first wiener joke by Jocelyn this episode, if you are keeping count. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm just blown away by it. I love the introduction to the city when you first sneak in and you go to the masquerade ball, but it's
yes.
I'm oh yeah, cool. It's going to be like Assassin's Creed. I'm going to get a mask. It's no, that's not how Nightborn do this shit. They straight up make arcane holographic fucking projections. And it's amazing. I loved it. I loved all these incredibly hoity-toity, looking down your nose at everyone else, all these Nightborns, just oh yes, I have the greatest costume of all. Would you look at my Alakir costume or whatever it was?
Yeah, there were a lot of really cool costumes, and it was a great introduction to basically what you have to do for the majority of time that you're in the city, which is essentially hide. So at the end of the party, you are introduced to Lilith, who is a very, very wealthy, very powerful, matriarch of her family. And so she basically becomes your ally within the city. and she gives you a disguise. So she makes you look like, I believe it's her sister, or at least it was her sister for me because I'm a female character. Did you get her brother?
I got a brother. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't even think about that. I guess it would have to be different since it's a male and female model depending on the gender of your player character.
Yeah, so she models you after her sister so that you can walk around the city without attracting attention, because obviously if you are a outlander, then people are going to be like, WTF, what are you doing here?
Why is there a blood elf running around? So was the quest where did you have to subdue the sister because she wasn't a sympathizer? Okay, yeah, it's the same thing.
Same thing, just brother or sister.
Good to know she has a brother and sister, both of which don't agree with her, and conveniently you only see one of them depending on what's between her legs.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So then you get your disguise, and then you can go out into the city. And I mean, the Nightborn disguise is so cool. I wish that there was a way to be a Nightborn outside of Suramar City.
I wish they were a playable race that came in with Legion. Really bad.
I just want to see like skins for characters. So like if I'm a Tauren, I want to be able to use like the High Mountain Tauren like moose model. If I'm an elf, then I want to be able to look like a Nightborn. If I'm a dwarf, I want to look like a Dark Iron. Like I just want the existing races to have skins of like their other kinds out there.
I've wanted brown and red orcs forever.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, although I guess being a fell orc doesn't really work with the lore, but being a brown orc totally does. So. Especially now, good God, all the time travel BS we're dealing with. Come on, give me brown orcs.
And I personally think that any type of anyone can have a change of heart. So you could be the one fell orc who was corrupted and then, like had or I guess fell Tauren would be a better example if you could be one of the Blood Totem tribe or something that then like got their mind back or something, and that explains how you could be on the side of the Horde while still being fell corrupted. That would be so cool.
You have to be careful with that, Joss, because you're going to send me down the rabbit hole of any race should be able to play on any faction.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at this point. We've allied ourselves with each other so many times during the course of history. Sure, why not? There's a night elf hanging out in Orgrimmar. Makes sense to me. They're hanging out with the Tauren and Moonglade all the time, and they're super, fancy, druid-only club. That I had to corpse run to through a damn furball cave. I took a wrong turn. I was trying to get to Winterspring. Stupid druids.
Tangent.
Stupid druids. It all comes back to stupid, dirty druids.
So basically, having to just traverse through the city. So there are the majority of the people in the city can't see through your disguise. But there are some specific mages and some specific demons who can.
And the freaking demons are bastards. Because the mages have a cast time on their little AoE that reveals you. The demons, it's almost instantaneous.
The demons is much quicker, yeah.
And when I was trying to learn how to navigate Suramar, I made the mistake of running up one set of stairs that had like 2 demon guards, and I was instantly revealed and instantly killed because there were so many baddies within this one little area. It's dumb, is what I'm trying to say.
It definitely is. So, but I think it's an interesting mechanic though.
It is.
The whole, and because you do a lot of questing throughout the city, for different reasons and doing different things, but you spend a lot of time masquerading and basically infiltrating the culture. And I think that that's really interesting because it's a bit of a departure, even though you're still, in some cases, like collecting things and killing things and doing all the normal things you do while questing. It feels different because it feels like you're trying to gather information and actually like infiltrate. It's very sneaky. And I really like it. And probably the first like 5-ish quest lines, I think, that you do in the city. Yeah. Actually, to be honest, there isn't anything that you do in the main quest lines that I didn't like. It was just that the main quest line is so gated that now I'm kind of looking back on it going like,
Yeah,
but the content is actually really great.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of grinding in between, so it feels very segmented and it's hard to keep invested in the story.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it too. I've been teasing, like I've been making the joke with my friends as we talk and we quest through Suramar that it's WoW does Assassin's Creed. It feels very Assassin's Creedy. Obviously, not nearly as systems deep. I'm not getting to run up walls. I'm not getting to like very satisfactorily assassinate people from above. But it's very similar. It reminds me of Assassin's Creed 2 a ton because it took place in Venice for part of it. And Suramar is so inspired by Venetian architecture that is ridiculous. But the fact that it's all this sort of all of this cloak and dagger, like you said, you're kind of embedding yourself within the culture. I really like it. I like it a lot, and it's all elf stuff. So I'm biased as all get out. So I'm loving the shit out of it. But you're absolutely. I totally get what you're talking about with the it is so gated by rep, and it just seems like it's weird because I feel like it is as varied as rep grinding has ever been because of the way the world quests work. It's not necessarily the same quest every day, but if you do it for like 5 days straight, you've seen all the quests and you're just going to repeat it over and over. Anyways, getting ahead of myself. So the politics in the city are not great. Obviously we work with Lilith a lot. And kind of our dealings with Lilith and other key figures within Suramar, we realized that there is a caste system basically within Suramar. There are the haves, there are the have-nots, and they are all at the mercy of the supply of what is it called? Arc wine?
Arc wine, yeah.
Yeah, arc wine, which is wine infused with power from the Night Well, and this is how the Nightborn that have not been exiled get their fix, more or less. This is an entire culture of junkies.
Oh, completely. And that's the reason why they go from Nightborn to Nightfallen to Withered is basically based on their access to, when you're outside the city, it's ancient mana. When you're in the city, it's Arcwine. And that's basically just your access to raw mana, raw arcane energy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that becomes actually, once you establish Shalaron, that becomes really important because you have to go back and you have to make sure that the Nightfallen that are your allies are essentially fed. And you have to do that basically once a day is give one of the all 3 characters that you unlock, you have to give them 50 ancient mana so that they don't go crazy and so that they can actually drive the rebellion and give you your quests and everything else, because you literally can't even get or turn in quests from them while they're withering, which I think is a really cool mechanic. And so you basically gather ancient mana from anywhere in Suramar. They're nodes as if you're mining, and they give varying amounts based on whether it's a chunk or a shard or whatever. So and part of those allies that you unlock, there's first, there's, I believe, Oculith, who is essentially in charge of a teleportation network around Suramar, which is another reason I don't really miss flying, is because there's these portals that once you find them all around the zone, you can just basically portal all over Suramar. So Oculith is ally of Thal. We're just going to stick with Thal.
Thalisra.
Yes, a very good friend of hers when she was still in the city prior to the rebellion, and so he has come to join us in Shalaron, as well as Valtois, who is the kind of leyline arcanist expert, and so there are leyline feeds all over Suramar that you have to go and activate, and that feeds into Shalaron and allows you to power various different parts of your little city. So you do a lot of work with the two of them, and it's interesting to see their kind of use of I was going to say technology, but that's wrong. I guess arcane energy.
Well, it's arcane tech.
Yes,
At the end of the day, Oculeth is. You go to a workshop. This is his things he created. I loved the whole quest line with Oculeth, by the way. I love the idea of just the tinkering kind of scientist who's just like, I don't know, take that portal, see where it goes. Let's figure this out. Minor gripe. I wish it would mark on my map where the hell the portals go to, because I don't remember. I've been keeping personal notes about where the portals go.
A lot of them are to different points in the city, which is
Yes.
really helpful. So there's basically like a safe space that you can there. Well, actually, technically, they're all safe spaces because you can use the portal and you won't be discovered because you can't put your disguise on unless you're actually in the city. So there's one in the vineyards. There's one in like a safe area, which is basically where all the poor are and where your ally Vanthier is. And he is basically in charge of just keeping the poor and helping the poor.
I'm not even sure why you're worried about being discovered, Jocelyn. I go in there and takes back, and I just kill 7 guys at a time and just kind of say, what? Come at me.
Yeah, not all of us are big beefy tanks, Garrett.
Nah, I love it.
Some of us are little squishy mages.
Yep. If I had been in tanks back when that stupid demon revealed me, sadly I was in Frost, so I died.
Aw. But yeah, so you get basically teleporters all over the zone, which is really, really cool. The other thing is you go after another ally of Thal's named Kel'Danath. But unfortunately, when you're sent out on this quest, she doesn't know where he is, but she knows he was working on research of how to potentially cure the withered. So that's what she wants to do. Is she basically wants to help her, I guess her fallen brethren, her society, with basically looking for a cure to not having enough access to the Nightwell. So you go out in search of this guy, and unfortunately you don't find him, but you do find all of his research. Or, sorry, you do find him, but he's withered.
Yeah.
So you have to, unfortunately, you have to kill him.
That was another really cool quest line, because you're going through all these kind of abandoned homes for what clearly used to be, Nightborn or Nightfall, and I'm assuming this was before the city was closed off. And they were kind of, they had all of Suramar to themselves. And it's great. And there's all the rats running around, and you're finding his notes, and it's all voiced. It's all done with VO, and it's done very well. And then, sadly, you find him at the end, and he has withered. But you find one of his subjects. I forget the number because you come across so
16.
many of them. 16, sorry. Subject 16, which is this kind of soothed wither. So it still doesn't seem like he's all right in the head, but at least he's not trying to eat me.
Exactly, yeah. So he is, like you said, he's soothed. So he becomes kind of like a companion, and there was something about him that Kel'Danath was able to make a crystal, I believe. And so somehow by fusing the blood/essence of Subject 16 into arcane energy in this crystal, putting that all together, basically you have a way to soothe and control withered. So that then becomes part of what you're trying to do in Shalaron is you are trying to grow your army by soothing, controlling, and training withered soldiers, which I thought was kind of cool. But I think this kind of shows a little bit of the problem with Suramar is that it's so fractured and you're sent in so many different directions. It doesn't really have it has a story, but everything kind of splits out and comes back together and splits out and comes back together. And it's hard to, remember what happened when and what fed into what. Like we went on this kind of not necessarily tangent, but on one storyline talking about, the city and the politics and Lilith and everything else when, you could have done that first, or you could have gone and found Oculith, or you could have gone and done the Kel'Danath storyline. And when you start to talk about it, it's really hard to figure out what the right order of things are because you get these little pieces of information through all of these quest lines, and you're just like, at the end, okay, this is all the stuff I know, but what did I learn when, and what was the proper order?
Yeah, well, that's I think, and that's the funny thing about this is because some listening right now have done their grind and they probably have finished this out and they kind of already know where it's going. Well, we don't, but I'm assuming it's all going to tie together. Like, yeah, the withered. The taming the withered, for lack of a better term, I think is going to tie in with what's happening at Suramar. I think we're going to use a withered army to take Suramar back, and it's going to be this big poetic thing where the people that were cast out and became zombies go back and take back the power from the elven 1%, I guess.
Well, and exactly, and you can kind of see that basically that's the story that you're given from the very start, right?
Yeah.
Is that the Nightwell is Well, actually, the Nightwell is powered by a pillar of creation. So we need that fifth pillar of creation.
Yes.
So we're going to have to go in there and take it at some point to make sure it doesn't fall into the hands of the Legion. So, I mean, we know that we're going to be taking back the city. That's what Thal has always said that she wants to do is, you know, go and save everyone in there from the oppressive rule of, I can't remember her name now, but I think it starts with an E. I can't remember her name.
Oh,
Anyways,
she's going to be a boss in the what I think will be the final raid.
yeah.
I can't.
You think that Suramar is going to be the final raid? I think that's going to be our second raid.
Well, the boss list has been spoiled, and Gul'dan is the final boss.
Oh, well then. If you want to be all spoilery and like
It is called
read
Embrace the
things
Spoilers,
on the
Jocelyn.
internet.
I can't remember her name off the top of my head either, but yeah, she's
Oh,
in the.
Elisande.
There you go. Yeah, I believe she's the first boss of the third wing in the Nighthold raid.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So we will be dealing with her eventually. Yeah, but she's. I have. Whatever. We have an explicit tag. I've been referring to her as Queen Bitch.
Bitch isn't even that exclusive or exclusive. Explicit.
Well, Queen Ashara is burned in my mind from years of Warcraft lore. This lady's new, so she just gets, you know, Queen Bitch. That's the title. Until I'm, you know, fighting her over and over again to learn the fight and finally down her. Then I'm sure her name will be burned into my mind like Syndragosa.
Yeah.
If I have to listen. Oh, man. Syndragosa. Sorry. Continue.
That's okay. I was just going to say, basically, so that's kind of what's going on in the city is you're doing a lot of like meeting and manipulating of the nobles and you're helping out the poor. And that continues because a lot of those quests then become world quests once you've completed them once. So then a lot of the stuff that happens in Suramar then kind of takes place outside of the city. It's kind of a while before you're really sent back in there again. And a lot of it you kind of have to do just by exploring. So Thalrissa's not going to actually, Val's not going to send you there. You just kind of have to go out and explore the world, which I did most of the time just by looking for ancient mana, because ancient mana is your currency in Suramar, and you need it for everything. You need it for helping your allies within Shalaron. You need it for bribing people in the city. You need so much ancient mana.
You need a ton of it. Yeah, you need at the very least 150 a day to go hand in 50 each to your three buddies in Shalaron.
Exactly. So yeah, you need like 150 a day, plus when you actually start doing Wither training, which is a world quest, you need at least 400 ancient mana to do that. That's once every 3 days. And really, you need more than 400 because 400 only gives you, I think, like 8 withered, and that's really not enough to do anything spectacular. So usually you need closer to 1,000 ancient mana to do that. So yeah, you need large supplies. So in my exploring, looking for that, you kind of find the other quest lines that are available to you in the zone. So I think the first one I came across was the Moon Guard. So basically that is a section of night elves, right?
Yeah, it's a mix of druids and Sisterhood of Elune. Because you've got moon priests and you have druids together. They basically made a pilgrimage to Suramar, and they're building their first moon well, so that they can make a settlement within Suramar.
Was that the Moon Guard? I thought that was something different.
I thought that was the Moon Guard.
The Moon Guard had actually they might actually have been Nightborn now that I'm thinking of it, but they were the fortress up on the hill. Have you done the fortress stuff yet?
Yes, it was taken over by Nightborn, but the bodies you're finding are night elves. Yeah,
okay. So basically they are, I didn't realize they were doing, that seems like a lot. that they would have built a fortress and everything else in the amount of time that the Nightmare has taken over Val'sharah. Are you talking about the refugees from Val'sharah, or are you talking about?
Oh, I think that's what I'm confusing them with now.
Okay.
Well, the fort was definitely.
There's 2 different quest lines.
Yeah, the fort was definitely.
There's refugees from Val'sharah, and then there's the fort.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're talking about the fort.
Yeah, so the Moon Guard is at the fort, and basically they've been overrun by Nightborn. Nightborn have just come in and basically murdered them all. And so you have to go in and rescue some people. You have to gather some things that were left behind that the remaining Moonguard need and basically don't want to fall into the hands of the Nightborn. And yeah, I'm trying to remember where that whole thing finishes off. But basically, then that area becomes a world quest area, and you get to like bomb them with arcane energy from the back of a griffin, which is super cool.
It's a hippogriff.
Or, hippogriff, sorry.
Excuse me, what am I, a human?
But yeah, so you do the Moonguard questing there. There's also very close to it an area of refugees from Val'sharah who have basically fled the nightmare. Those are night elves, and you do the establishment of a moonwell, which was actually really, really cool. And I'm not an alliance player. I'm not big on night elves or any of the rest of it. But seeing them establish a moonwell so easily was, well, I guess not necessarily easily, but you basically gather the blessings of all of the creatures in the area. It's very based in nature. And being a blood elf and knowing how difficult it was to establish the Sunwell and all the stuff that happened around that, then to see them just be like, we're going to live here now. Poof, Moonwell. I was kind of like, damn you.
I believe we did have to go and like get blessing from animals and crap. It wasn't that simple. Yeah. We had to go kill a lot of things.
Well, but that's the thing, you went around and you got the blessings from the basically creatures in the area, and then you were able to have your font of power, which the blood elves can't do. Nope. We can't just go making sunwells.
Nope. I like to think life is a little easier for me as a blood elf death knight because I'm dead, so I'm probably not as worried about that stuff. But yeah. So I found the Moonguard synopsis that I wish I had found earlier because I was totally getting them confused with the
refugees,
the Val'sharah refugees. They are night elves, but they are directly tied in with Lord Ravencrest.
Oh, okay.
So they were night elves. They were part of the Highborn, but they were considered low class by the Highborn. So there you go.
That makes sense.
That's what was going on there.
That's why you got confused, because they are night elves.
They're both night elves. I was like, and they're very close to each other. The stuff that you're doing.
They are, yeah, and they both border on Val'sharah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So.
So after you do, and again, you can do this stuff in any order. I don't actually believe that any of these outlying quests. I think they unlock all at the same time. I believe it's when you become honored, but I'm not 100% sure. And so another quest line that you can do is the, I guess, Yandvik area. Have you discovered them yet?
I've done the whole thing. I did it in a surprisingly long sitting. This is surprising amount of quests for these Vrykul. So there's a Vrykul encampment in Suramar, and it's funny, you actually see it when you're flying to Azuna. With Khadgar, and he's talking about saddle sores. He's like, "Oh, look at this! It's a Vrykul encampment in Suramar." Whatever, I don't know. It's my Khadgar impression, but it's cool. You actually get to go back and see the random thing that Khadgar's just like. And on your left, if you look, you will see a Vrykul encampment. But they're nice Vrykul. You quest alongside them, and you're basically pushing the Naga back into the ocean, and it's kind of a mini. Why can't I remember the name? What was the Cataclysm Zone?
Vashj'ir.
Vashj'ir, yes. It's a mini Vashj'ir because you get the water breathing, you get 70% water movement. It has the same running on the underwater ground animation if you're on the ground and everything.
Which I kind of wish that I'd known before I started doing World Quest, because I didn't realize that there was actually a questing area there. I hadn't found the quest line yet. So I did so many world quests without water breathing and without movement.
Oh God, what's wrong with you?
This is the worst area of life ever. Why did they design it like this?
God, why would you do that to yourself?
Because I needed the rep or the gear or whatever it was.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Look for that Vicrul settlement if you are doing World Quest, because getting that water breathing and that movement is so important.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if it was gated behind rep, because I was definitely out there before I was honored and was just like, oh, hey, a quest.
It might just be friendly. I don't know if these kind of outlying quests are gated by anything. They might not be. There are
definitely some quests that are gated, because I know I go into Suramar with my friends sometimes, and they have world quests in the city specifically that I do not have access to.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there are some that are
so
gated.
there are some things that you do have to unlock before they will become world quests. But this underwater stuff was not one of them.
Okay. Alrighty then. Yeah, it was a fun little aside. Really didn't tie in at all to the overarching story. This is one of the largest outliers.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't give you Nightfall and Rep either.
No, so it doesn't seem like it's worth doing, but it is worth doing to get the damn water breathing for future world quests.
Yep.
But it's a cool little zone underwater, and we need to get a raid together to go fight that whale shark.
Yes.
Because he chased me, and I want to kill him. So, which is the other thing that made it seem like Vashir, because Vashir had a killer whale shark.
And actually, I believe there's killer whale sharks in Suramar, in the city proper as well. Like right down in the like bottom middle section of the city, there's like sharks and stuff swimming around.
Oh, okay.
It's like technically ocean.
Oh, I didn't know that. I know I've seen some great whites and hammerheads running around, but
yeah.
Cool.
So that's basically that Yanvik area, which was pretty cool. And after that, there's kind of just east of that, I think, is an area called Telenor, which is basically another one of the abandoned outer cities of the Nightborn. And so in this zone, have you discovered this area yet?
Telenor is not reminding me of anything.
Okay. So I think once I start explaining the quest line, you'll either remember it or you won't. Basically, you meet a Nightborn named Theandris, and it's basically, there's a lot of it's like a final resting place, kind of a burial ground sort of an area. And he has basically lost all hope. He has fled from the city. He has lost his wife. And he has decided to kill himself. Oh. And so you quest alongside him to basically try to convince him not to, and convince him to come back to Shalaron with you. And while you're doing these quest lines, you're learning all about basically Nightborn funeral practices, I guess.
Oh, cool. No, I totally have not done this.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So.
And so, yeah, it's a really it was quite a difficult quest line actually for me to be, trying to convince this elf not to kill himself because he's so just distraught over the loss of his wife and the loss of his city and the loss of just basically he's lost everything and lost hope. And so to try to convince him to actually come back and stay with you and fight and, give him hope again was it was really emotional and a very interesting quest line.
Very cool. Well,
I won't spoil too much because I won't tell you how all that stuff ends because you haven't actually done it, and I think
it's fine.
I think it's a good experience. So
okay, all right.
But yeah, so that's Telenor.
Gotcha. Well, the thing that got me really excited, and I think I jumped the gun on getting excited because almost nothing was explained, was when we went to go get the seed for the Arkandor. Arkandor. I don't know. Made up words.
Arkandor sounds right.
So this Thal sends us on this. She has a vision of basically, I think she refers to it as an artifact.
Yes.
So we go into yet again more elf ruins, and we find this seed, this Arkandor seed, and we are attacked by what look like elf Nerubians, which we find out are called the Faldorai, and I just started losing my mind because, oh my God, Nerubians are back! Oh wait, they have elf bodies. Are they tied into the Nerubians? It doesn't seem like they are at all, but we actually don't know what's going on. We run into another druid, and he's named Faradin, and kind of calls us fools and yells at us for disturbing the artifact because the Faldorai steal it. So we chase them into the Falinar tunnels, which is such an awesome set piece.
Doesn't he say something like he's been protecting it for 10,000 years or something, and then we come in and touch it and then just ruin everything?
Which I would say to you, Faradin, you didn't do a very good job protecting it because we walked right in and poked it.
Exactly.
But the Foul Tunnels was such a cool set piece. It's this, you go down into this basin, and it looks like what used to be a dome ceiling has just broken away, and everything around it's overgrown with like lush green vegetation, and you just jump down in this giant elven ruin.
Spider pit.
Yeah, and it turns out to be a spider pit, which is the if there is a hell, that is what it is.
Yep.
But really cool set piece. We fight the Falderai, and really all Faradin says is like, yeah, they used to be elves. Now they're bad.
Yeah, they basically they're
extent.
corrupted elves, yeah, but they
Yeah.
don't give any explanation, which is unfortunate. Which I'm thinking that we probably will get more information as the expansion progresses. I hope anyway.
I hope so too, because it's very cool. 'Cause they're using the same Nerubi models with some tweaks, because the top half is elf. So I'm anxious to. I would like to know more about the Faldorai, but I tried to spoil this for myself, and I couldn't find any more information on them. other
Yeah,
than-
no, there's nothing else there to spoil, at least yet.
Yeah. But anyway, so
But-
we save the Arkandoran seed, and we bring it back to Shalaran, and basically plant it in the center, and it starts to grow. And we're informed by Faradin that Arkandor are trees that feed off leyline energy. And according to him, they can bring life or desolation. Unfortunately, that's as far as I am with the Arkandor quest. It's finally a full-blown tree. Like I said earlier, I just finished up the Blood and Wine track, which I really enjoy. I never thought I'd give this much of a shit about touring a vineyard in a video game, but I had a really good time with this quest line. I loved Margot and her voice acting, and one more time in Legion, Blizzard makes me love someone and then takes them away.
Oh my god, I could not believe they killed her. I was so mad. It was like, because there's one optional quest that you can do after that, which basically is revenge for Margot. I think that might even be what it's called. But basically it's like, kill 8 like guards in the vineyard, or like basically kill 8 bad guys in the vineyard. And I'm like, 8? I will kill them all. They will know my vengeance.
Yep. Oh man, I was spreading diseases like crazy. I just pulled everyone and threw down. But I mean, you originally go to find out how to deal with moths that are eating the Arkandor. So you go there, and we steal mana worms. I have a soft spot, starting in Silverman and whatnot for mana worms.
Yeah.
So I was very happy that I got to go and steal some from a vineyard. But this is where we learn how they make arc wine. It's we go there to get mana worms, but we end up taking a full tour, befriending Margot, watching her die, and learning how arc wine is made. We even get to make arc wine by using the jump button, which I'm assuming is randomized, because she asked me to jump like 5 times in a row, and I was just like, is this really what's supposed to happen?
I feel like the original quest must be bugged, because it did the same thing for me. Is the original quest was basically just jump on the grapes.
It had me add 2 things out of the I don't know what you would call that. I don't know my wine making terminology. I'll call it the tub. The foot tub.
Okay.
It did have me leave that and add 2 ingredients, but then I went back and I was just jumping forever until she, gave me a yellow question mark.
Yeah, see, so that basically, for me, was just jump the whole time. I didn't have to add any ingredients. I was like, okay.
Fantastic.
So it's totally randomized. And so there are 3 things on a table next to you. I think there's flowers, there's water, and there's, I think, berries or something.
Yeah.
And so they will randomly tell you to add an ingredient or jump to create the wine.
Yeah, and then we take it and we infuse it with power from the night well.
The night well, yeah.
Yeah, I almost called it the moon well. Ooh, careful there.
Too many wells.
Too many wells. Sun well, night well, moon well. Why is the night well different from a moon well? Because the moon comes out at night. I don't know. Elf things. As I yelled in our 5-man last week, elf shit.
But yeah, so then you do all that, and then eventually you go back to Shalaran, and you deliver your mana worms, and then your tree is allowed to flourish.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, Shalaran at the beginning, it is a abandoned, neglected kind of an area, and it's slowly but surely, as you unlock more ley lines and more portals, and you get the tree, and the tree starts to grow, and the tree growing is based on your rep again.
Mm-hmm.
But the tree starts to grow, and it starts to look like a really impressive, really pretty little city shrine thing.
Yeah, it really comes to life. I mean, when you first find it, it's literally a hole. And it starts to come to life as and more refugees show up as you progress through Suramar. I really like it, and it reminds me of rep grinds from previous expansions that I did enjoy, that I feel like I was working towards a bigger story. I mean, the first one really was the Alakal Danas in Burning Crusade, which was returning to the Blood Elf kind of storyline for the first time in BC. And it was very cool. And the thing that was and it also reminds me of the Grand Tournament, where you were building up the tournament to the point where you could do the raid. And those were all really cool. But the thing that was, I think, more successful with
these are all experiences that I've never had before.
I know you didn't. But the thing, sit back and learn, Jocelyn. I'm Garrett about to learn you good. The thing I think was more successful with these particular rep grinds was that it wasn't tied to your specific rep. It was you were working together with your server to unlock the next leg. So everyone coming in and doing their dailies every day in Quell Danas would move the campaign forward into the Sunwell. You would unlock the next section, it would unlock more dailies, and you unlock the next section, unlock more dailies. The tournament, for example, they would add on new sections, new tents would go up. Eventually, the actual trial would pop, and you could go do the 5-man, and then you could do the raid, and then you could progress to further encounters in the raid as you did that. But again, it was kind of this worldwide effort, and that's kind of what I liked about it. And so now we get to I think the discussion we've been kind of dancing around, which is how we think this could be improved. Because at the moment, it's very single player focused. I mean, it's tied to my own rep. Like, you can go do different quests that I don't have access to because I'm further behind. And there's all kinds of things I would like them to do. I wish they would have had a little more of that server wide unlocks, where we're all working for a common goal as opposed to kind of working for our own personal instanced goal.
Yeah. How did they actually track that? Like, was there a way for you to tell like how much more needed to be done?
For whatever reason, I don't, and I'm sure we'll get plenty of comments, I don't remember the Grand Tournament all that well. It was very visual because you would literally just see new tents pop up. But for Quell Danas, there was just like a stage X of however many up at the top, and you could basically see how close you were to hitting the next thing, and it was basically tied to the number of dailies that were completed.
Oh, okay.
So you could
see I think I'd like
up.
something like that, because right now it's like everything is instanced. So I'll turn in a quest, and all of a sudden, poof, I'll be able to see a whole bunch of different players that are now like standing right next to me in Shalaron. And then I'll turn in another quest, and then poof, there's a whole bunch of other players that are, then standing right next to me. So it's all instanced, and I don't know. I don't think I like it so far. I don't know.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that these were perfect. I mean, Alakal Danas definitely had its issues because you went back every day and it was the exact same quest, and it was grindy, and it was pretty much the only daily quests that were around. So it felt extremely repetitive.
And I think that they have, because basically your world quests refresh twice a day. It's I think 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. server time. So if you have cleared all your quests in Suramar, you'll get a brand new batch of quests at 11 o'clock. But I don't know. It seems there's always something to do, and I guess it's varied enough. And it happens twice a day. But I don't know. I wish it just wasn't so gated. I feel like I've played Warcraft a lot in the last month, and I've put in a lot of hours, and I feel like I should be further ahead than I am. And I feel like I should have access to this content, and I don't. And I know, there are plenty of people who are already exalted, and I know it can be done, but it's just like the fact that they're putting these little chunks of story behind these huge long rep grinds. I'm just like, I don't want to kill Dude Face for the 18th time. And I don't want to, I know like the names of the guys that I'm going to kill and the reasons why, but like, I don't want to spoil too much for you specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah, like cause you get the same mobs over and over again in your world quests. And I'm just like, Okay. I
No,
just wish it wasn't so gated because I guess I'm one of the people because a lot of people the argument to the gating is saying basically you're going to complain all of a sudden that there's nothing to do at endgame. And I'm like, no, I won't. I didn't complain all through Draenor. If I didn't complain in Draenor, I'm not going to complain. I still think that there's plenty of things to do in Warcraft. So I don't know. I just, because archaeology is another thing that is really time gated. Like you get one quest every 2 weeks. That's it. So I feel like they've put a lot of things behind these either time or rep gates at end game. And I'm at the point now, I'm starting to get a little frustrated with it. So I wish it was a little bit more open.
It's the game systems getting in the way of the story, and I think we're noticing it more now than ever before because the leveling experience was so damn successful with telling a story, with keeping you invested. With at the end of a zone, I was like, no, I need to go to the 5-man now. No waiting. I don't care if I have a mining quest.
I've literally never had that experience in Warcraft. I tend to, as we talked about on Embrace the Spoilers before, I tend to stick to the single player stuff or like the super big group stuff. Like I really liked Ashran when it was like 150 people in there. I don't like running dungeons. I don't like doing LFR. Anything that basically puts me in with random people. I had the exact opposite experience in this expansion where exactly like you said, Garrett, I got to the end of the zone. I was like, I have to run that dungeon. I have to know what happens. I need to figure out, like, I need closure on this storyline. And I feel like probably a couple of weeks ago, I needed closure on the Suramar storyline. And now I just don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Oh, geez. All right. See, I care. I just don't care enough to grind every day as hard as possible for Nightfall and Rep.
Yeah, I feel like probably right around the Blood and Wine story is when I really started to try to grind to like actually progress the story, and that's when I started to try to find all the extra quests, and I did more exploring. I branched out in areas I hadn't been to before. And then you finish some of the quest lines, and they don't even give Nightfall in Rep, and I was like, damn it!
Oh, jeez.
So it's a little bit too grindy for me. And even if they had, I don't know, they still could have put the dungeons behind those rep walls, and that would have been fine because I've done the 2 mythic dungeons that you unlock as part of your story. And I kind of wish that they had just given me all the story and then like still put the dungeons behind the rep wall or something, but just finish off your story. Like don't put these little chunks of 5 quests behind getting exalted with a faction you can only gain like 50 to 75 rep with at a time. And I know like every once in a while there are things that will pop, some quests, some world quests, some bosses that will give you 150, sometimes 200. And so there are a little bit later on bigger chunks of rep. But even then, like when you're getting 200 rep and you're staring at that 21,000 number, you're just like, ugh.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about on the show many times. You're not going to make everyone happy, but I think there's for me, I like this type of stuff. Like you said, like I don't think the 5-man should be locked behind. I don't think the story finishing up the quest line should be locked behind rep. I think the grind should be there for the people who want to do it. If you want the mounts, if you want enchants and stuff like that, let that be what is gated behind the grind. Don't keep major chunks of content behind the grind.
I'm totally with you there. I don't like the rep grind, but yeah, I was trying to be middle of the roadie there by saying if you really want to lock the 5-mans behind, I guess that kind of makes a little bit of sense. You need time to build up your army before you go to the middle of the city. I don't know, but you could make an argument for that one. But no, I completely agree with you. I wish that all of the story content and all of the major content pieces like dungeons were just available.
Yeah, and I would like more control over my rep. I mean, Lich King let you just get a tavern and run 5-mans, and I'm not saying everyone wants to do that, but at least give me the option. Because there are so many things to do.
There's no dungeon reps.
Yeah, there are so many things to do at max level. It would be nice if you could choose to gain rep from whatever it is that you would like to do. If I would like to get rep from PvPing, let me do that. If I want to get rep from raiding or grinding dungeons, let me do that. Is it really that big of a deal? It's already an immense grind. Make it an immense grind, but at least let me get a little bit of it from doing what I would like to go and focus on.
Hmm. They've pulled out of dungeons everything that you used to get. So all you get your rep through World Quest now, you get your gear through World Quest. You still get drops in dungeons, but they're few and far between. And I've found at least rarely are they upgrades unless I'm running mythics. And mythics are hard to do because you have to try to pull a group together. You can't just queue for them like you can normal or heroic. So there's a little bit of extra work there. And for the longest time, I was ready to go on mythics and like none of my friends were. And still there's like, I can count on two hands the number of people that I know on my friends list who are actually ready to run mythics and comfortable running mythics. So it's just, yeah. And that I feel like it should be a grind, but like I said, they've taken everything out of dungeons and they've put it into world quests. And so that's good because it makes the world feel more lived in, but at the same time, it's giving you basically no reason to run a dungeon, which is unfortunate because the content in the dungeons, they did such a good job.
Yeah,
such a good job
Fantastic
this expansion.
dungeons.
They're really well designed. The bosses are interesting and cool. Like all the models and set pieces and dungeons are so cool. Like Maw of Souls, you're fighting on a ship. Like it's so cool. But I just can't find a reason to go in there.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's a strange thing. There's these weird. There's times in WoW, and this is true of every expansion. I just feel like they missed lessons from previous expansions, and it's like, well, no, this kind of worked. Put it in and add it to all of the other things you're adding. Just because you're adding something new doesn't mean you need to remove something that previously worked. That's what I kind of feel like what's happening with rep here. And world quests are fine, but we need more. Like there's I like that it is randomized every day, so I'm not necessarily doing the same thing every day, but I am repeating the same quest so many times that it is extremely noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I think this is more or less going to wrap up our Suramar discussion, because we just haven't experienced any more of it at this point.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I have 2 quest lines left in the good Suramaritan, which I just keep reading as Samaritan. But
Suramaritan, come on.
I have 2
Come on,
quest lines
Jocelyn.
left to complete that. And I think I'm not sure what the actual rep gate is for the second last quest, but the last quest I believe is like chat room was just saying 20k out of 21k revered to unlock your last quest chain, which why don't they just say exalted, because that's basically exalted.
A little bit of a middle finger, looks like.
Yeah, well, I think, and probably once you do that quest chain, you probably will be exalted, and that's probably the idea, is you ding exalted while you're doing whatever this last final huzzah is. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I want to do it. I want to know what happens, but I think I know what happened, so I'm just like, whatever. I have other things to do. I've been gearing up alts, and yeah.
I think the key is to take your time.
Yep.
When you feel like it, go and do it. When you don't. Because if you're just doing it every day and you hate it, you're just gonna burn yourself out.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm going to do. So our chat of Suramar will have to wait for completion to when we naturally come across it, which brings us to an announcement that is half baked.
Those are the best kinds.
Yeah. So if you're watching live, we started late today because Joss and I were having a meeting because we were trying to figure out what to do next. Because we promised 5 weeks, five zones, and we have hit that. Obviously, we didn't get to complete Suramar, and as you can tell by listening to Jocelyn, she's about to explode if she's going to continue grinding it as hard as humanly possible. So we're going to continue Suramar, but at a pace that suits us, and we'll talk about it more in the future. But we won't be doing it on Embrace the Spoilers. Jocelyn, you and I have decided that we're going to just bite the bullet and branch this off into a proper World of Warcraft podcast. And we don't have a name to announce because we haven't decided on a name yet, which means a feed doesn't exist yet. So I will put up another, because I know there's a big group of you that probably only have the podcast feed and you don't go check out the website, you don't follow us on Twitter, you don't do anything like that. So I will put up an announcement MP3 on this feed when the new feed is up and running and we have a name. So tweet at us at Garrett Art, at Joss Plays. Let us know what you think we should name the damn show because we're not sure yet. It'll be at the same time. It'll be Mondays at noon. Embrace the Spoilers will just be taking a break for now until there's something we just have to spoil.
Which actually, I just saw a movie this past weekend, which was phenomenal, and I think we should spoil. It was Miss Peregrine's School for Peculiar Children. So good. So good. It's Tim Burton, dude. It's Tim Burton.
Okay. Tim Burton movie I haven't heard of.
I literally didn't hear of it until like a week ago.
Okay, based off of a book. Cool. All right. Well, I can't commit to that yet because we're currently cannibalizing our recording time for the show to talk WoW. So, more on that later. But a WoW show will be coming. Follow us on Twitter. Keep an eye on amove.tv, and don't unsubscribe from this feed because we'll post an announcement and a link there. So that's all we have to say for now. But for the given future, we will be talking WoW until we just can't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, which I think will probably be a while.
Yeah,
I'm still doing a lot of stuff, and there's still a lot of stuff that we haven't touched on. Just doing the questing, lore, leveling kind of stuff that we've been talking about on Embrace the Spoilers. So, I mean, there's so much going on in the World of Warcraft right now, from all kinds of different things, all the artifact stuff, all the profession stuff. We've got news of 7.1. There's so much going on. The raids opened up now, so there's a lot to talk about in the Warcraft universe. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it won't be just lore. We'll be talking lore. We'll talk news. We'll talk what we're currently doing, and we'll probably even add an email segment so it's a little more in line with Angry Chicken, Into the Nexus, etc. So look forward to that. And seriously, let us know your name ideas because we've named too many podcasts at this point, Jocelyn. I'm just tapped out.
Yeah, I'm terrible at naming things anyway. So if you leave it to me, it'll be like sparkly glitter unicorn show.
Yeah, we're definitely not leaving it to you. That's for goddamn sure. Alrighty, well, fantastic. Thank you everyone for who has tuned in over the last 5 weeks. The download numbers from Embrace the Spoilers are better than they have ever been. Clearly, a lot of you like listening to us talk WoW, and we're going to continue doing it. And this way, we don't have to come up with some bizarre schedule to continue talking lore. We can just talk about it when there's new lore to discuss. Mm-mm. So enjoy that. Hope you liked this. Joss, where can folks find you when you're not spoiling stuff?
I am Joss Plays in all the places. That's JOCE Plays. And you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and also jossplays.com.
Fantastic. You follow me on Twitter at Garrett Art. There are 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett, 1 R and 1 T in Art. Check that out. Everything else over at amove.tv. And we'll see you next week for our yet to be named World of Warcraft show. So enjoy that. And 3, 2, 1. For Azeroth!